Yep.
It's 4:30 PM, February 13th, I call the public work committee to order. Please roll call.
Sagami,
Here.
Ermeling,
Here.
Hubbard, well, he's excused, Lopez Serrero,
Here.
and Mumford.
And Mumford's
So
excused
he
as
is
well.
excused as well, sorry.
Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Just one person, Tanya Westfall, Clark Dietz is on Zoom.
Okay. I'd like to welcome our audience. Um, Public comment? No public comment? Item 5, approval of 12/12/22 Public Work and Utility Committee meeting.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Who did, I'm sorry. Hang on, just double, I'm multitasking here. And who made the motion?
Luis
I did.
And then,
Barb with the second.
thank you.
Are you with us?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Items, the staff report, CIP update. Michael?
So I'll try to hit on the highlights here. We do have an agreement in the packet with the city of Schofield for the Ross Ave Metro Drive to Alderson Street. We did receive a DOT Surface Transportation Project Urban Grant earlier this year, so we have the signed agreement with the state now, and we can start moving forward with hiring a design consultant and getting that process moving. So we need to have the agreement with Schofield in place, and then we can get moving on that. That project is slated for construction in 2027, so we have a few years, but probably start sooner than later on it.
I see our sharing was 50/50.
Yep.
Is that based on what?
The road, the north side's in Schofield, the south side's in Weston.
Is half and half?
It's half and half. Yeah. Yeah, MSA's been working on the right-of-way acquisition on Weston Ave from X to J. That seems to be going fairly well. It seems like every day we're getting one or two more signatures in for people that accepted the initial offer. We received the 30% plans for Weston Ave between Alderson and Birch on Friday. So pretty much right after we sent out the packet, I got the plans, so we'll be reviewing those this week. And I guess, yeah, everything else is, well 7-8, Josh maybe will touch on this, but the well testing is scheduled for this week. The initial signs point to both wells being able to pump at least 900 gallons per minute, which is what we were anticipating out of the wells, so it's good news. Initially, they were fairly low, so they had to do a couple extra well treatments to get the pumping levels up, but
Did it blast it?
yeah, they did some shocks and
Yeah.
some extra cleanings.
Hydrofracture?
Yeah, they did a couple different things. They came back then with a different process. I can't remember what they call it, I don't even know what the name, it was some acronym that they used, but it gave them results. I think they were having troubles getting up over 700 for quite a while. So whatever they did seemed to work.
Is it hydrofracture or is it
Yeah.
blasting? That's, we can do that, sure. Okay,
I guess that's really it, kind of in the winter lull a little bit here. The Crestwood Acres special assessment letters did go out last month.
the stretch of the Western Avenue between Alderson and Birch.
Yep.
You had a comment in there, Mr. Peterson wants to go back to review it, to do something? What was that?
So there was a question by Rothschild if we wanted to have a roundabout still at the intersection of Alderson and Weston Avenue.
Mhm.
That was what was in the original design proposal.
Right, yeah,
So that's currently how it is being designed. If Rothschild ends up requesting that be removed from the project, I guess that's something we need to
Then you gotta do intersection design.
Well, the intersection would be, probably stay as the four-way stop that it currently is. So the proposal is, so it's being designed right now as a roundabout at Alderson and Weston Avenue.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
So I just wanna make sure we don't pay again for the designing of it.
Yeah, no, I don't think we'd pay again. I mean, we'd just leave it as a four-way stop like it currently would be then if they would reject that. Or we ask that they pay for any difference or additional costs due to them.
Whatever it is their cost,
Changing.
we're not gonna
Yeah.
pay extra, no.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Nothing, okay. Dan's up.
Anything else?
I don't have anything now.
Okay, the street operation update?
Just continuing with the normal stuff, Mother Nature's kind of blessing us this week. With the warm weather, the only problem is the potholes are blooming. I attribute a lot of the losses we have as far as with surface on streets to all the rain we had this winter. That moisture got down in there and it's really wreaking havoc, even on the sand country. If you look, I get the reports from the county, there's 3 feet of frost in the roads according to their frost tubes. Out in Corona where I live on Highway X, it's sand country and the road's tinted. So all that moisture that got into all those cracks is really wreaking havoc, even with only 3 feet of frost. Could add another couple of weeks of below zero, it'd really be bad. But as you drive Jellic, there's some of the streets that are seal coated and that moisture's gotten between there and it's wreaking havoc. So we're trying to do our best to keep up patching. Other than that, it's been snow removal. We're pretty much done with that. We got a few streets to finish and there's some cul-de-sacs that we want to clean out yet too. Because even though it's only February 13th, we could get blasted with some snow yet, between now and April. So we're going to do what we can on that. Miscellaneous tree removal and stuff, patching. The big thing is moving from the old shop to the new shop. It's a process. There was a lot of items to move. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be put away yet and organized, and it's just gonna take some time, because you can't just stop what we're doing on the street and devote everything to that. So we're trying to work around it all, make it all happen, So it's gonna take a little time, but just keep on with what we're doing. We got to use a new building. I took some pictures in the meeting room next door. Diggers Hotline doesn't do the big meetings anymore at Weston Lane. So we had a meeting here. I talked to Diggers Hotline. They come in and we invited Rothschild, Schofield, Cronenwetter, brought people, and it was about an hour-long presentation, which was good. And hopefully, as we come in the spring, there's some other safety trainings we want to try and do. I was talking to Dave about some chainsaw safety we want to do again too, probably getting into March sometime, middle end of March, get that done. So just kind of keep on with what we're doing now. See what Mother Nature throws at us. And there was one thing too, there's a picture there with a compost sale. Randy Warden gave us a price on compost. So there's 3 big rows out there that we're going to sell to him. That's probably over 1,000 yards of compost, which is kind of a good thing, and will free up some space out in Lime Street for us. Myself, I've been working on getting all the road maintenance contracts together. We want to have a bid opening on April 5th of this year for crack sealing, chip sealing, all that stuff. And also we're going to look at the contract for Stone Ridge Drive. That's going to be a rehabilitation project going from Weston Avenue north past Sherrill Tire, Westview Boulevard, and it's going to wrap around, go to the west, and it's going to end at Ministry. There's a lot of bad curb in there, a lot of bad joints on the curb. There's 11-foot long pieces of curb and the joint is rotted that wide. So you hate to rip it all out. It's expensive to do the joint repair, but it's cheaper than ripping it all out and have to do all the restoration. So that's got to get put together yet too. And then the asphalt will all be milled off and adjust the water valves and manholes, new asphalt, and the restoration work. So,
How much item you have for auction?
pardon?
How much item you gonna auction? How
Auction?
many pieces? There was some place you said you have some item you have to auction.
No.
You're not using it anymore?
We are. There's stuff that's probably ended up on the Wisconsin surplus online auction yet. Brian Schmidt, our mechanic, is the one that basically has the list of items that are, there's some stuff there's an old tire changer there. There's some other things that'll probably go up on Wisconsin surplus. I don't know if you got any more insight on it, Michael, than I do, but.
No, we figured once we moved over everything that we deem as essential, whatever's left, we'll inventory and, as this committee generally approves it as being declared a surplus before we put it on the auction site, so.
And then you'll see there it says remaining contractor work. I actually ran into Doug Milky up at Menards a week ago on Saturday and talked with him. He's researching, we want to put solar lights on the primary signs. I might have talked about this last month's meeting too. So he's working on that to get something that's going to be decent solar lights. That won't have to worry about power on any of them, so. And then posting of roads, I'm staying in touch with the county. We'll see when they're gonna post. I haven't heard nothing yet. I've got to call Greaseback and talk to them to find out what their thoughts are. But it's really, nothing's come out as of last week. The last frost tube report I've got, it shows how deep the frost is. And it starts showing when it starts to come out on the top. So we'll just wait and see. We'll get another report this week from them. Usually have 2 days at home and we'll see where it's going.
Okay. Any question? Anything else you want to say?
Pardon?
Anything else you have to say?
No, I've taken up enough of your time.
Go back up. You didn't talk about the punch list.
Oh, for this building?
Yeah.
It's like, like 95% done, I think is what they said. As far as interior goes, and then exterior, they still have to stain or seal the masonry on the outside. There's some sidewalk and other curbing that is gonna get redone because it was hit with the roller when they put the asphalt pavement down. Yeah, I guess I don't have the detail there, but the exterior items will be addressed once the snow melts and it's able to be. I know the stairs will be finished up later this week. And the floor finisher was here on Friday getting some of the polished concrete taken care of, but there's still other spots they still have to finish up on, so. They are here and moving, so.
That's good. That's good.
I guess one other item, since we talked about the building. Roman and I had been in contact with Greenheck Fan, just down the road here, about getting some big fans for the shops to help push the heat from the radiant heaters down to the floor. They'll be gifting us 4 really large fans free of charge, as long as we let them use our space as a case study for how effective the fans are. The only thing we have to pay for is the electrical wiring. So that was pretty nice deal.
I think so.
So it'll
Yes.
help enhance the energy efficiency of the vehicle storage area.
Yeah, usually they do that. Yes.
I'm just wondering, what would be the cost of those 4 fans that are gifted to us? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I don't have it printed off. I could find it quick. Honestly, it was about $40,000.
Just the cost of the fan.
Just the pure cost of the fan, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they donate usually when they do the new product and they research it, they donate it
Yep,
to see how they function.
yeah, so,
I've seen they donated Barge Hood.
Yep.
And actually Basil Hood was one of their contribution.
sure. And the controls on it, they're trying a wireless control system. So they'll be letting us be the testers of how that works too. And if it doesn't work, they said they'd give us the wired system, for free.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Josh?
All right. Guys were able to get some numerous well interior items taken care of over the last month. Had a few hydrant repairs got taken care of as well. Started our yearly cycle of large meter testing and changeouts. Had a number of lift station items that we took care of as well, that we've been meaning to get to. We did have our Tanya Tricia lift station generator startup. We did have discussions with Wassa Tile. Rim Mountain Metro has been experiencing some high pH numbers, met with Wassa Tile. We're actually should be getting our own pH sampling devices here soon, just so we can kind of stay on top of some of these things, just so there's no big issues coming down the road with Rib Mountain Metro. We are,
Was it the numbers dumping some stuff they weren't supposed to, or?
it seems that way, yeah. They've had,
Wouldn't be the first time, that's why I brought it up.
right, so they have a new person in place over there who's been pretty good to work with and staying on top of it. They have their sampling device actually at their last manhole that they're implementing here soon, that they're gonna try to share their information with us as well. So we're hoping to put some of our own sampling locations upstream of that, and then probably be able to move them throughout the village, just so we can, because I know we have some other potential issues coming out of our business park, and just so we can kind of get an idea. With some of the numbers that Rib Mountain Metro was seeing, we assumed it would have been Wasatile, just because they're so close. They have Rib Mountain Metro has a sampling station that basically sits right where they dump out, and the pH numbers that we were seeing, it'd be hard to have one of our locations way up here have a pH as high as it was by the time it's got mixed in with, I mean, hundreds of thousands of gallons of water and everything else that's in it. So we assumed it was them. They've been good to work with. So we're just hopefully getting some of our pH stuff in there, their pH numbers in there. So we can at least, because we'd see Rib Mountain's data, but it's, trying to backtrack 2 weeks ago, who had an event that they dumped a large amount of fluids that then had this pH spike, because they can see the pH spike fairly quickly, but then it doesn't make it to their plant where they see the volume increases. So we just need to get something that's a little more real time so we can see where these potential dumps are taking, so.
The pH of concrete being 12.5, they're a very likely candidate when
Yes.
Metro says we have a large pH. Was it like over 10.5?
Yeah, they've had some where it's up over 10, sometimes touching 11. So you can kind of see a gradual trend, and then it spikes and then it'll start to fall off. So we're trying to correlate to see if they have some kind of wash downs or some type of event at their facilities so we can try to correlate some of these and make sure they're staying on top of the ordinance that's in place, so we don't have to do things we don't want to have to do.
Are they the last one on the line?
Yes.
Yes, yep. I mean, there's
Sweet.
some small, there's some residential contributions down there, but
Yeah, those doesn't add up much.
the next closest that would be, upstream would probably be, down Transport Way or something like that, a facility over there, so. We'll hopefully stay on top of it, and we'll eliminate some of these pH excursions that they've been seeing at Rib Mountain Metro. We're also waiting for our SCADA. We've had just a lot of headaches with our SCADA system. We've actually transferred any kind of alarm to my cell phone because things weren't going where they're supposed to be going. Some reason we can't put a number in this building because it's maybe TDS. There's something that's within this building where we try to set it up to be here and the alarms aren't getting to the answering service to then notify our operator on call. So we've transferred it to my cell phone, which we'd like to get away from that as soon as possible. So we're pretty close. I can't remember if Angel said there's a couple things yet to do, and then we should have an RFP ready to go to submit to get some numbers on our brand new SCADA system, hopefully getting in this year. We have some other items, some bigger tickets. We're pretty low for this month, probably due to the weather. Work orders are fairly low at this point. A little note on our PFAS. So we had some positive news with our well 4 temporary treatment that we got our results back, and our PFAS levels were significant prior to the temporary treatment, but after they were non-detect, so it was functioning as we had hoped it would. However, about 4 days after that, the shaft on well 4 broke and we need a new pump put in well 4. So I just actually got an email from Municipal Well. They'll be in the week of the 27th to do a rehab on the well and get the new pump components put in. So it's, kind of some coordination to make sure the media that's in our temporary treatment can sit, or how it needs to be prepared to sit, waiting to be used again. So hopefully in, I guess, a few weeks before March is here, we'll have that up and running again. And it was, and not a lot, but it was contributing, 400 plus gallons a minute to the system of, PFAS free water. So we want to get that back online here as quick as possible. Couple other notes. Cary Well, we are currently in another, I guess, more of an ongoing maintenance program for that well. Cary facility itself has been noticing some manganese issues, which we've known about that could be possible. So we're working with water quality investigations. We took some samples last week, I believe, or the week prior, last week. Took some samples so we can have Andrew Jacques with Water Quality Investigations. He's going to kind of put together an ongoing living, breathing maintenance plan for that well with probably more frequent rehabilitations of it. So hopefully we can get that rolling here in the next couple of weeks. Our Cedar Creek Interceptor, we're receiving some of the easement letters from the property owners. We need to stay on top of that. Michael touched on well 7 and 8. We are doing the 24-hour tests this week, and we will have AECOM will have a sampler there tomorrow. We'll be observing it to collect our water samples, which will include PFAS analysis, so we can kind of see where we need to go for any kind of future treatment. We did have a meter pit project bid opening last week where we received no bids. This was to have the 3 meters at our mobile home parks brought up to the surface so they're not in confined space and kind of sitting in damp, wet conditions all the time. So we had no bids. The engineer did reach out to a couple of parties that took out plans to see why they didn't submit. So we're getting some additional information. We'll probably be putting that out again for bid here soon. I think the rest of them have been touched on. And other than that, I guess we just have some of the data for some of our customers added, our water pumped for the last handful of months, our wastewater flows and lift station hours. The other questions?
So the SCADA is completed, complete that system and is working?
No.
The design, they're working on the design.
Yeah.
And then it should be bid out this spring for a completely new system. So the system we're running is, it had a revamp. I think it was like 10 years ago.
Right.
But it was essentially still utilizing a lot of existing equipment. So at this point, a lot of the electrical and components all need to be replaced, not just the programming. So, it'll be a much more,
It's an intense, they did an intense survey of all our locations to see what's all needed. So it's a pretty big RFP that's gonna be going out.
And then your sewer lining on like Camp Phillips, pretty good?
Yeah. It went well.
Finish on time, or they were there for a long time and they took off and they came back?
Yeah, they kind of got hit with some unfavorable conditions, I'd say, but when you get some late October, November work, you run the chance of getting a big snow pile on you. So, and they did. They had some hiccups with their own back truck, sewer jetting truck that we lent a hand a couple times, but they stayed on schedule. They finished when they said they would. It's tough where they have to, reset up their huge bypass pumping systems, just to bypass a chunk so they can line that chunk, move down to the next one so they can bypass that chunk so they can line that chunk. And so it was a tedious process, but they did.
So they were moving the pump continuously? I thought they set it up and they were just keep going with it?
Well, they had, I think, 4 different setups for their bypassing.
Okay,
So there was kind of the first metal rock to, I think they did a few hundred feet down Camp Phillips, where then they would dump back in so they could line that section. And it was a little trickier once they got onto shore, since there was a few more residents on that stretch too. And it was a little bit of a wonky, it wasn't a perfect setup probably where they had their bypass piping set up. But it saved them an extra probably 400 or 500 feet of bypass piping. So they could run it over Birch Street and across Shorey, which I know some residents were displeased about, but it was a few days of headache,
the pump never failed,
as far as I know.
No,
that's good.
nobody called us at least with any backups, so.
They did have to run it continuously, so they did have some people staying on site overnights, monitoring it, and yeah.
All right, question for Josh? Policy discussion and recommendation, item 9, water meter pit pad.
Yeah, so it's, Josh said, we had a bid opening, last week and we received 0 bids, so, we'll be,
Why? Nobody wants to work there or what?
it sounded like a little bit of it was just that it's a unique, it's not a large project that you'd have your crew on for, the whole summer. It'd be kind of a tedious little fill-in job. It sounded like one of the contractors just ran out of time to get their bid in.
Yeah, I think one of them had questions about some dewatering potentially, and just ran out of time, I guess, so. But,
How deep is that pit?
I mean, they're not deep,
Probably 8 feet.
yeah.
Did they did the boring?
No, so all it would be, they'd be taking the existing meter pit that's, 8 foot deep, that just kind of runs in, and we'll just bring it up to the surface into heated enclosures. So our guys can get it and change them out, because they have to be changed out I think it's every 2 years, you're supposed to change them and test them. So we can not deal with any confined space, and conditions like that, we wanted them to be brought to the surface in heated enclosures. And like Michael said, I think it's just kind of difficult kind of fill-in work. Each one's maybe like a week to do. So I don't know, it sounded like they'd like to, some of the outfits that took out the plans would like to bid on it. They just didn't have time to put it together, I guess.
What is the estimated cost?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
I don't have it on top of my head either.
Tanya, do you happen to remember what the estimated cost in those pits was?
I don't offhand, but I can look it up quick if, and I'll send you something here in a chat.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Oh, Dan DePaul, Earth Inc., maybe you will do it.
Yeah,
They'll do it.
yeah, and even like last year on Birch Street, we had 2 bidders on a nice, what was it? Ended up being like a $1.8 million project, and, we had 2 people bid on it, so it's just one of the, I think unfortunately a sign of the time where there is a lot of work out there, or maybe less contractors able to, take on some of these projects too, so.
Okay. So they're gonna rebid it?
Yeah, so we'll probably rebid it. I don't know, one of the other options I thought of was seeing if we just need to purchase the necessary components and, maybe hire somebody to excavate or something for us for,
Do it now?
and try to do it in-house primarily with our own staff. So that was the other option, just if nobody was gonna bid on it. If we have the components here and we have a week where we're available, we go do one and kind of tick them off as we could, so.
But that's because if you get the bid, probably you get the high bid.
Probably, yeah, so once we get a number, we can see if it's worth it. Yeah,
Okay. Any question on that? Item 10, well 7 and 8, incentive date revision.
So for the well 7-8 project, we initially had a early incentive completion date of May 1. That then stepped down to June 1st, and then with no incentive after June 1st. That May 1st date was chosen due to how the water main flushing and summer lawn watering and demands generally intermingle there through May, June, and early July. So we wanted to incentivize the contractor to get the wells up and running so that we'd have that extra capacity for that time period. So I mean, we had awarded the project in April of 22. However, there was a delay with the DNR and the Department of Safety and Professional Services and getting approvals on the well house. And there's a little bit of a chicken egg thing. The DNR wouldn't approve the permit until DSPS approved their permit, and DSPS wouldn't approve the permit until DNR approved their permit. So it took a little while to get those two entities to work together and approve the project as a whole. So it took until September 30th before we were actually able to give the contractor their notice to proceed. So that delayed the beginning of the project approximately 17 weeks. So if we wanted to use that 17-week timeframe, it would move that incentive date to August 28th to September 25th. And then after September 25th, there'd be no further incentive payments. The contractual completion date of the project is December 23rd. So there's still 2 months after the incentive date where the contractor could still finish the project and be on schedule. If we were to get the wells up and running by that late August or early September date, that would still be enough time for us to perform a fall water main flushing, which we haven't been able to do a full flushing since 2021. Since by shutting down the wells in 22 for the PFAS issues, we didn't flush last year, and we'd really like to be able to flush the wells this year, or flush the mains this year. We don't want 2 years of buildup in there. So I guess I personally am comfortable or was still offering an incentive, just because it is needed to get the mains flushed. Otherwise, I believe we are going to have a lot more water quality issues next winter, just with knowing that the wells that have been running pretty much full time are some of our higher iron manganese wells. So it's never a good thing, I guess, if we're not cleaning them on a regular basis. So, like I said, the contractor initially had asked for almost 30 weeks. So I think 17 is a fair compromise. Well, it makes sense. It follows what I believe they should be owed.
I think what we charge the public, we should give them a quality water.
Yeah. And initial test results from these wells was essentially 0 iron and 0 manganese. So getting those wells up and running and pumping to the system should greatly help with any water quality we have.
We should keep eye on it, see if, because we are close to the bedrock, it may come up.
Yeah.
Any question on that? I'll accept the motion to give an incentive, increase the time by 17 weeks
I
with
move to,
incentive. Go ahead.
I move to recommend the village board approve adjusting the incentive date in the construction contract by 17 weeks due to the delays in obtaining permits from the DNR and DSPS to the August 28th, 2023, and then step down every 2 weeks consistent with the original contract language.
A second.
Discussion? No discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? I have it, thank you.
I can't forget this.
Item 11. Weston Avenue X to J, design amendment.
So
Michael worked pretty hard today on this.
So back in October, we had approved a cross-country route design. And then when I got the actual change order to be signed, I noticed that what was approved in October did not have the additional cost of surveying involved in it. So the initial estimate they gave us was $93,750. What the board approved was $71,500. So it was missing the $18,000 for surveying costs. So the actual amount should be $89,500. Trustee Zagami had asked a couple of questions about what was approved back in October. So some of these costs related to the delineation. This actual task 7, the opinion of probable construction cost, that's not actually in the final change order as it's presented. That number falls under the final design, which is the 24,000. So that number didn't change from the original. So it's this, or 25.4. The delineation and valuation report, we were provided from actually one of the property owners, a wetland delineation that was done in late 2021 and was approved by the DNR in 22. And if that delineation should still be accepted by the DNR, that number actually should end up being probably more like $6,000 instead of $21,000, or almost $22,000. So we should see a fairly significant decrease there. AECOM is leaving that cost in there in case it's necessary, but they don't think it's going to be necessary. And similarly with any extra bidding costs, the project would be bid more than likely with another phase of the Weston Avenue project. But in case for some reason we need to bid this project separately, that would stay in there as an option. But so I guess in summary, really it's a not to exceed budget, time, and materials of what they actually spend. So it's not like we're approving a set number that's going to be paid no matter what. It's a limit of what could be spent. If that makes sense.
Maybe for a board approval, you should give them a range to say this number could be from this here. to
Sure.
something.
And if it's significant enough, the initial 71.5 that was approved might cover it anyways. So
I think it should, because even his design is high. Because as I said, we talked about it.
Yeah.
We got only 0.4 miles or 0.5 miles of the sewer, 0.3 miles of the water. The water doesn't take much time to build it because there's no slope in there. Sewer, yes, there's a little bit more challenging, but again, I think he's high in there too, so.
sure.
Okay. What's your wishes?
I'll move to recommend the village board approve the additional surveying costs for a cross-country utility route east of Progress Way for an additional $18,000 for a total not to exceed cost of $89,500.
I'll
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 12, Business 51, construction detour, cost share, and the draft municipal maintenance agreement. Michael?
I wasn't quite sure how to word this on the agenda. As part of the Business 51 reconstruction project with DOT, we've had a couple of meetings with the representatives of the DOT in reviewing the 30% design. And as part of that, we had a meeting, and the DOT sent us a letter requesting that our communities take official action on, I guess, first approving the use of local roads during construction for detour routes. If there was a desire or need for storm sewer upsizing cost shares. And then also official comment on the draft state municipal maintenance agreement. So So I discussed this, I think, briefly a little bit at one of the last meetings, but we met in January with Rothschild and Schofield at the staff level, going over some of these things. So I'll just step through one at a time. For the local roads, this project now for Business 51 is kind of slated in that 2026 to 2027 timeframe. As I mentioned earlier, Ross Ave is programmed for reconstruction in 2027. So we need to make sure that's coordinated appropriately, but if it's used as a detour in 2026 and we reconstruct it in 2027, I don't foresee that being an issue because they'll beat up a road that is gonna get reconstructed the following year. So I would be fine with letting them use that. And then the only other road they were looking at utilizing primarily would be Schofield Avenue. We have talked about the reconstruction of Schofield Avenue somewhere in that 2025 to 2026 timeframe. So I don't know if this changes things at all. We do have, I guess, the TIF district funding window that we're trying to stay within. So, but, you know, whether it's a brand new road, I don't know how many people would use the sign Schofield Ave detour. There are other ways around that area too. Primarily people that would have to get off at J, probably take Schofield Avenue to get over to Highway 29, or they just stay on Highway 29 until they get over to, I guess they could take it south then to the Cedar Creek area and then get back.
So still they stay what, 27 construction?
Yeah, they're looking at staging it, so part in 2026 and part in 2027.
Because the road is already like before. If you drive it today, right now, you will see the bumper there. What they had before is exactly there.
Yeah.
So
That's where they're at right now.
I don't know, I complained to Senator Tomchek.
Sure.
And I said they delayed the project because they wanna buy right away. He said, how much right away is there anyway? I know that road, and he's right, he knows the road because he drive on it.
Yeah.
So he said he's gonna take a look at it and see why.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I guess I don't necessarily see an issue with using Schofield Ave, but just making sure we get that committed by the DOT, so when we want to commit to reconstruction, we're not reconstructing it in the year that they're trying to use it as a detour. So I guess I'd be okay with letting Ross Ave and Schofield Ave be signed detour routes. I think local traffic will find other ways around, but might be the out-of-towners that would follow that. Well, everybody has GPS these days, so they're probably going to be on other roads anyways. The second item was the storm sewer upsizing. So it sounded like they were initially under the assumption that the communities were requesting that they upsize the storm sewer from Post Avenue to State Highway 29. So our portion would be essentially from Volkman Street to Post Ave. I guess locally, we don't have any memory of there being any flooding on Business 51 in that area. So we're not sure there needs to be any upsizing. Additionally, any redevelopment along that corridor. People now have to meet the new DNR regulations for stormwater. So they can't just release all of it immediately anyways. They have to have some kind of on-site detention. So if anything, the water going to that storm sewer system should be less moving forward, not more. So we don't think there needs to be any upsizing. Our cost of that would have been $308,000. We can forego paying for the DOT to upsize anything because it's not necessary. They will replace any main that needs to be replaced, but not increase the size of the pipe.
How much he was increasing it?
I forget I think some of it was going, 18-inch up to 24-inch. Some 15s up to 18. Kind of essentially one size larger going up the street. So I guess all of our communities, Rothschild, Schofield, we don't see a need for that upsizing.
So who's the engineer designing it?
for the state, EMCS is their design consultant.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll come back to this one, could just note that the storm sewer upsizing, the DOT seemed to be committing $1.2 million towards that. So I'll come back later here. And then the draft municipal maintenance agreement. So just before my time here in 2008, the DOT had proposed a maintenance agreement with our three communities. I think when the overlay project was taken on initially, at the time, the state had added some language about the municipalities taking on maintenance of the road, which the communities essentially told the state, no, we don't think that's right. So the state took that language out of the maintenance agreement in 2008. And here we are in 2023. And the language of us taking over maintenance of the storm sewer has popped back up. So we, I guess, initially told the state, we don't think that's our to maintain. It's not our road. So we shouldn't have to maintain the storm sewer on that road either for you. We already struggled to get all of our own maintenance done. The city of Schofield brought up the fact that they have a crew of 4 people. It's not even enough people to properly do the traffic control and safely do any maintenance on the road themselves. So they'd be contracting out any repairs anyways. So it really should be the state to maintain their own infrastructure, just like we're expected to maintain our own infrastructure.
Good answer.
Yeah, so we struck out, there's a strikeout version of this, which pretty much eliminates any and all references to the fact that we would want to maintain the system.
Is there any, I mean, obviously their argument is it's less for them to do, but is there any benefit that they try to throw at us? Like it's our benefit or your benefit to do this because of X, Y, Z?
Not that they have said, no.
Okay.
Currently they contract or work with the Marathon County Highway Department to maintain their infrastructure. So I guess I don't see why having us run the street sweeper up and down the road and clean their inlets and fix any broken grates. I don't see why we should be doing that if they already have a mechanism in place for that,
The cost of the maintenance is higher than the cost of the construction of the road. So they try to give that maintenance. They say, okay, we build it the way you please, you do the maintenance. So I don't think we should do it.
Yeah, so this would be our proposal to send back to them.
But the problem is they don't do their own maintenance either. And good example is the Camp Phillips. If you're coming out of the exit and entrance to that area is embarrassing practically, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, initially this had, the maintenance of items, to include curb and gutter and drainage facilities. I don't know why we would need to maintain the curb and gutter. It's not our curb and gutter. We did agree upon, previously, the sidewalks would be ours, which is fine. If anybody puts landscaping features, if we were to put trees or bushes or irrigation systems, I think Rothschild has a couple of those that they maintain, so that's fine. If a community wants to put that in, they would maintain it. But yeah, and then, any reference to the storm sewer system, inlets, catch basins, manholes, we don't see why that should be our responsibility, as we're not getting paid to do it either. So.
Anything else?
Yeah, so then there's a fourth item.
Yeah.
Which we brought up as the communities, as part of our stormwater master plans. There's a regional stormwater basin that was identified by Strand Associates for all of us actually within the Highway 29 Business 51 on-ramp. At this point, we have a major 60-inch storm line that kind of comes from Hughes Avenue underneath Volkman Street that currently just goes straight to the Wisconsin River in that spot. And then as well as the main that comes down Business 51 does have contributions from Rothschild and Schofield in it. So if we were able to put a storm pond in that middle of that on-ramp, it would treat a fair amount of our stormwater. For the village of Weston, that location drains 727 acres. And it is the single highest kind of bang for our buck project that was identified in our stormwater management plan to get us into or closer to compliance with the DNR requirements for phosphorus removal. So I guess part of my thought process was, you know, since we're telling the DOT we don't want you to upsize the pipe, we would like you to save that 1.2 million and invest it instead in the storm pond to help us have better water quality entering the Wisconsin River. So that'd be my first ask of them is, you know, since we're not upsize, let's put that money somewhere else where it'll be beneficial to everybody. And I guess also, at the very least, we want to have the right to utilize that property. Because initially they said, no, we're not gonna let you use that pond or that area for a pond. I'll try to get aerial here. So our storm pipe, and it already comes this way from Hughes Avenue and cuts through, enters the river over there. Rothschild has a pipe here. I think some of our water from McIntyre and Jelnik also is there. And then we would intercept the Business 51 line here. So it would be a beneficial project for all three of our communities.
And those percentage you figure out is a pretty good number, or?
Those percentages are based on the area treated. So it's, yeah, that percentage, that page came straight from our stormwater master plan that was submitted to the DNR. Just saying who's responsible for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have 727 acres, so it's 70%. Rothschild's got 28%, and Schofield has a small amount, but they're not that large of a community either. So.
Good job, Michael.
Thank you.
Yep. What's your wishes? It's 4 items, we have to make a recommendation on that.
Could I move to approve as written? Or would you like me to read it all?
I think it's fine.
If you just say item 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah.
I move to approve the language as written for items 1, 2, 3, and 4 on this item.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? If you can just copy it from there and put it in that motion, please. Just the way it's written in there, I think is pretty good. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 13, water utility lab build-out.
Yeah, so I guess attached is a change order to, I guess, finish out the water utility lab in this building. It was initially left as a shell, thinking we'd use the treatment plant for, I guess, that function. However, when PFAS came in, we're now using that space as it was initially designed for, well, it wasn't designed for PFAS removal, but that space at the treatment plant was designed for granular activated carbon. So we'll be using that, likely using that technology for PFAS removal, which then did create a need for us to get the lab finished out sooner than later. So I guess you're looking to get that quote, that approval for $34,531.16, and that'll be paid for by the water utility. So it's in this building, but it's not part of the building cost. It's a utility cost for essentially furnishing the testing room.
Any question on that?
I move to recommend the village board approve the water lab change order for a price of $34,531.16 to be paid for by the water utility.
I second.
Discussion. Who's the contractor?
So that'd be Myron, and then they'd be working with the same subs they have on this building, so.
Oh, I saw Myron had some cost for Cooper. What was that?
Yeah, so Hooper would be the plumber, Van Nert, I think there's a little bit of data and electrical that needs to just be, moved.
So we don't need another plumber coming there?
No.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
So that's the total cost.
that's a total cost, correct, for the lab, yeah. We're still looking at other quotes for the pipe, for the meter testing.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Intergovernmental agreement with the city of Schofield for reconstruction of Ross Avenue from Metro Drive to Alderston Street.
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we received a grant. I guess we're notified in January. So it's a little over $2.6 million, which we'll be looking to split with Schofield. As I said, the north half of the road is in the city of Schofield. The south half of the road is in the village of Weston. And even if you look at the intersections, Metro Drive is 3/4 Schofield, 1/4 Weston. But Alderson is 3/4 Weston, 1/4 Schofield, so it's essentially equal. Yeah.
What's our cost?
Well, our grant share would be 1.317 million.
Right,
We don't have I guess a design consultant picked or solicited yet. So we'd fill that in. I guess as we put out the request for proposals for design, we would obtain that price. Just the agreement just notes that all costs there would be shared 50-50 for design. The only caveat would be for any utility work. So we have water main that currently goes from Alderson Street to Greenheck Drive, and then Greenheck Drive to Metro is Schofield's water main. And then they have the sanitary sewer, the whole strength, the whole length. So if they want to do anything with the sanitary sewer or their water main, that would be on them. Similarly, our water main would be our cost. Otherwise, the street, I guess we're just proposing would be shared half and half.
so that project gonna be roundabout at the intersection of Metro and Ross.
And also at Alderson and Ross, that was the initial proposal. And that we had, letters of support from Crystal Finishing, Greenheck. I had it listed here somewhere. I just don't want to say somebody's name wrong. I just said Greenheck, Crystal Finishing, others, so, I know Integrity Grading had a letter of support in there. There's a couple others too, just of the industrial trucking outfits that use that corridor on a very frequent basis. The current design doesn't allow some of their trucks. I know Merrill Iron and Steel, but just Merrill Steel now. Every now and then they ask for a special exemption and just go straight on Alderson Street because they'll have longer beams and they can't make that corner to get out to Business 51, so.
Question? All right, what's your wishes? We agree with that 50-50 cost?
I move to recommend the village board approve the agreement with the city of Schofield for design and construction of Ross Avenue from Metro Drive / Pine Street to Alderson Street.
For a second.
Second.
Question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Future water and sewer utility capital project.
All right. So late last fall, we kind of went over some of the street projects, which we'll be discussing with finance and the board in March here. And just kind of wanted to, I guess even for my own sake, sometimes it's good to remember where we're at with the rest of our queue of projects. So as we know, well 7 and 8 should be done and completed this year, which then our next well projects are wells 3 and 4 for PFAS removal. So we are in the kind of beginning design phase with AECOM designing that removal system for wells 3 and 4, which includes the need for an iron and manganese removal for well 3 prior to any PFAS treatment. So the granular activated carbon would be housed in the existing water treatment plant. And then we'd likely need to put in an iron and manganese removal plant at well 3 itself. So somewhere in that Mesker well house or adding on to the well house, probably towards the public safety building a little bit. So I guess we'd be anticipating that to continue design through 2023 and then construction probably in 24, 25. We have had, I guess Josh had a couple of meetings or sat in with the DNR and AECOM regarding some of the grant and funding opportunities for the emerging contaminants. So we'll be looking to try to take advantage of any and all funding opportunities we have for that project. So unfortunately, then that pushes wells 1 and 5 likely out into the 2025, 2027. So we initially were looking at having those scheduled for iron and manganese removal, which would then route water from well 1 or Kennedy Park over to the Bladel well. And from there, they would then pump to the distribution system. So that project kind of got flipped with wells 3 and 4, just because wells 1 and 5 can currently pump and meet all current health standards for the PFAS levels, whereas wells 3 and 4 weren't able to. So that's why those got mixed around. But hopefully, once wells 7 and 8 come online, we can reduce the amount of pumping that wells 1 and 5 have to the system. So the water quality should improve just by pumping these guys a little less. Then we have a replacement water tower on Weston Avenue, kind of over by the hospital. So we need the Birch and Weston Ave, Birch to Alderson project to be completed first. So we have the water main looped on Weston Avenue there, and essentially would reroute the Summit Tower, which is currently just northwest of the Weston and Alderson intersection, and would have the new tower placed then over by the hospital. Then we'd have to decommission the Summit Tower and likely have still a large pole. That's where a lot of our communications for our meter reading is held at the Summit Tower. So we'd see if it's still possible to try to move that, or if we would need to keep a kind of a monopole there just for the communications aspect of it. And then the Business 51 water main replacement, that's just I guess taking advantage of the state ripping up the road. We can then replace our existing water main in there. We have several spots where there's dual mains. I'm not sure if that was done just because the road was in the middle and these people needed service, so the water main got put in on the east side of the road, and then these people needed water, so a water main got put in on the west side of the road just so you didn't have to dig up the road. So we'll be getting rid of some of that dual main and just having one main in there. So I guess, and then as we, Josh alluded to the carry system, there's a few things we're looking at there yet for either replacing the tower or having, I guess, a surge tank put in. So they're kind of their own little animal on that side. And I did I attached the kind of the capital improvement plan here. I try to kind of update it, look at it as we go. So anything in green is a project that we finished. So like our Ryan Street River crossing, this Everest Avenue was part of the Crestwood Acres project. We ended up putting a 12-inch main on Everest Ave to go from the water tower out to Camp Phillips Road. Previously, that was only a 6-inch line. And then the Birch Street, we closed that gap this past summer. So we have been ticking off this list, and anything in yellow is something that's currently under design or in consideration. So these Weston Avenue ones are part of the X to J, project 12, 13, 14. This project 20 is actually the looping as part of the Weston Ave, Alderson to Birch project. And then our Business 51 project is over on the right side there, and also the SCADA upgrades that Josh mentioned, so. But so on a positive note, we have been making progress and we are taking care of that. It's just, it doesn't happen overnight. And then on the sewer side, the main item that was listed in our 2019 plan was upgrading or replacing the Harlan as well as the Tanya Trishul lift stations, which has been done, and then making the necessary upgrades at the Ryan Street lift station, which is should be completed this spring. And we made some of those late fall. So in reality, we kind of got the big ticket items on the sewer side there. And then the next thing to note was just continuing the televising and lining to eliminate or minimize our inflow and infiltration of really groundwater or clear water getting into the sanitary sewer. So, that was part of the Camp Phillips Road lining project. There are spots there, especially going through the swamp where, it looked like somebody just had a garden hose just feeding into the storm or the sanitary sewer. So as we find those and we're able to plug those holes, it should, continue to help us with lower flows and reduce our actual expenses at the treatment plant. So I don't have anything else really to add. Just wanted to touch base on where we're at on that in case anybody's curious or was like, hey, we talked about streets, but we haven't talked about wells and lift stations for a little while.
Okay. Any question from Michael? None?
None other than I really appreciate the maps in there. I think that gives, a lot of times we talk about the different wells and I try to picture them, and this actually helps put them out there.
Right, the summit, that is in Rothschild, right?
Correct, yep. Yeah. So probably should just use that on the screen. So we'd get rid of this tower and then use a new tower over here.
Rothschild would be happy.
Yeah, that we no longer have one less Weston tower in Rothschild.
I've heard about that a few times.
So then like on this project for the wells 1 and 5, it would be taking water from Alta Verde, pumping it to Bladel and then treating it at Bladel and then putting it back out into the system.
Anything else, Michael?
I have nothing else to add at the moment, no.
All right, thank you very much. Item 16, future item 16. Next meeting date, Monday, March 13, 2023 at 4:30 p.m., regular meeting. Item B, Monday, April 10, 2023 at 4:30 p.m., regular meeting. Item 17, topic for future meeting. Do we have anything?
The only item I might be is somewhere in that late March, early April, we'll probably be looking to have a special assessment meeting for the Weston Avenue project. I don't have an exact date on that yet.
Okay.
I'll just be an extra meeting, likely not on a Monday night. I have a preference on a day of the week if it's not a Monday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Sure.
All right. So I'll try to have a draft.
That's one that I could kind of move around with.
Yes, my goal would be to have a draft report likely for the March meeting, then have a hearing probably later in March. So it'd be consistent with, the last few projects we've had with water and sewer extensions.
All right. Item 18, remark from administrator, Mr. Donner.
Don't really have anything to share tonight unless anybody has questions on anything.
Question for Mr. Donner?
No.
All right, thank you. Remark from the staff?
I guess the only item is, we will be, looking at a utility clerk recruitment, so. Probably likely, I doubt we'll have somebody in place by the March meeting, but probably by the April meeting, we'd have a new person on
Is it
staff.
in the paper or advertised?
We don't have it advertised yet, no. Hope to get that out later this week.
It's gonna go through human resources or public work gonna do it? Who's gonna do that?
Well, we've gone over the job description, just any changes or revamps that we need to make. I think we got a version that works.
Okay. Great. Remark from committee member. Shirley?
I just, as you were talking, Michael, I was having to think, when will you have some idea about those wells, not wells, those meters that are in the park? As to when you're gonna, I'm kind of curious if you're gonna get any more bids or
Well, yeah, so
if you're gonna do it or what.
we would have to rebid it, so I guess, yeah, we, at this point, we'd probably look at what the cost of materials is, and we could probably rebid it as part of the, and we have to rebid it. Yeah, I guess we can kind of do a parallel thing, and once we get the bids in, we can evaluate if it's worth,
What about Jeff? I mean, he does the small project.
yeah, it's one of those things, you try to reach out to people, Tito.
Yeah.
So, we can do as much as we can, we can't force somebody to
No?
bid it though, so.
Maybe they didn't look,
Yeah,
yes,
so
call and say,
we
hey,
can,
we got this. We're gonna bid.
Because sometimes they don't look at the advertising or anything like that. It's like they don't.
yeah,
They're busy enough not to worry about it.
yeah,
But if you call them, especially because it's a local, they like to do the local work.
yeah, so we can make sure we do a better job reaching out and making sure people know.
That you're doing it, you
Yeah.
know. I just, that was the thought, I thought, oh, remember to ask when, because I'm curious what we're gonna do with it,
Yeah.
Sure.
or anything else.
Anything else? Louis?
I just wanted to thank the village for opening up the old municipal center to our K-9 units for training. We've been working with the Everest Handler, and it's been a really nice venue for the K-9s to use that facility, because there's so many different types of rooms, office setting, a big room and stuff like that, and that's been a really nice opportunity for them to use that venue while it's not being used, so
Sure.
they really appreciate it.
Oh, that's why all the police cars. were
Yeah,
there that
you
one
see a lot
day.
of police cars
I come
there.
around that building to go home, and because I don't, I'm looking, and I'm going, wow, they got a convention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Item 21, announcement. I don't have any announcement. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you very much for coming to the meeting.